So now we got to get serious. Let's take the prayer, please. Together, Master of all worlds, highest power, merciful parent of compassion, in your presence, Eternal One, source of strength for us, as you have been for our ancestors, we very humbly acknowledge you. What are we? What is our life? You have done such great kindness to us. Therefore, we place our appeals before you, so that you may forgive and absolve us of all our faults and failings. Let our faults never become barriers between us and you. May it be your desire to prepare our hearts to feel awe and love for you. May you listen to these words of ours, and may you open our encumbered hearts to the mysteries of your Torah. May this study be a source of pleasure before your glory, like sweet incense. May you shower down upon us the light of our soul source in all the ways by which we define ourselves. May the sparks of your holy service, through whom you have revealed these words to the world, shine and sparkle. May their ancestors merit their Torah, their innocence, and their holiness stand for us, so as to prevent us from stumbling when we study these words. In their merit, may our eyes be illumined by what we study. As in the saying of single Israel, open my eyes, that I may gaze into the wonders of your Torah. May the words of my mouth and the thoughts of my heart be acceptable to you, my rock and my redeemer. For it is the eternal grants wisdom. This from his mouth, that knowledge and understanding issue forth. Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Oh na na na. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. Oh na 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 na. So we're on page 282. 282. And we left off at the top of the page, the contrast that the Zohar makes between Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. Abraham and Isaac both had to dig wells. Jacob didn't have to dig a well. Jacob encounters his beloved at a well that's already established, but Abraham and Jacob had to, as it says, endeavor and dig a well. So we understood that as the Zohar means it to be understood as a spiritual endeavoring, a spiritual work, that both of them had to exert themselves to come in contact with the well. The well here is the divine source of life, the wellspring of waters, and they had to keep on overcoming obstacles. They had to go to different places, to Gerar, to Egypt. They had to fight hard to get into touch with the divine. And then Jacob just inherits it. Jacob just grows up in a family that can take it for granted, that they're connected to God. This is the way the Zohar presents that stark contrast. Jacob found it prepared, sat down by it. There it was right there, right before him. Then the words are a little vague. The last words of that paragraph. They all went striving after it to fortify themselves fittingly in perfect faith. So who's the all? Does the all who went striving for it, does that include Jacob? Or does that only mean Abraham and Isaac? It sounds like it includes Jacob as well, because otherwise it would just be what they said before, or it could have been they both, the two of them, went striving after it to fortify themselves. But it sounds like it's trying to include Jacob also. Anybody have any thoughts about that? What makes sense for us to imagine, even though it's hard for us to imagine in general, these mythic figures and what they represent? But what could we possibly say about the three of them, about Jacob? I mean, is it all just really automatic for Jacob?
So, Reb,
go ahead, Seth.
Isn't it? It seems like the striving is what they all are doing. Maybe a different kind of striving, but that's what they're emphasizing, that they all went striving.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, striving is not the endeavoring and digging, but it's the striving.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the idea that there's different kinds of what can I say, challenges or spiritual struggles that apply to different people, and it's not to exempt Jacob from that need to strive. It's just that he didn't have to do the same kind of starting from scratch, almost the same kind of, dig the dirt out and get to the well. But that doesn't mean that he well, to put it back into the picture of the Torah, doesn't mean he didn't have to roll the rock off the well in order to get the water from the well. The well was right in front of him, but you couldn't get the water out until you pushed the rock away that was covering it up. Obviously, the word striving also. I'm going to just take a half a look. I don't remember the word that's used there in the original. Bear with me for a half a second.
Seems like Yaakov was striving vis-a-vis Esav.
Mm-hmm.
Abraham was striving, struggling, traveling, trying to figure it all out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, wait, I got it. Yeah. Yeah. So the word that's used is mitakfi. Mitakfi means getting stronger, or trying to overcome, right? To overpower. So either it means to overpower someone else, or it means to draw strength from something, right? It can be either way. And what David is pointing out, of course, is that from the very beginning, Jacob's conception involves him striving with Esav, and then later on, he's going to be the one who wrestles with God, right? And has to prevail. To fortify themselves, right? To become stronger, they strive, and as a result, they become stronger. So Jacob's own mission or own job, spiritual seeking, is not just a piece of cake. There's striving involved, but it's not that he's starting from nothing. And that leads us into the next paragraph. And now it's time for somebody to read it.
I have a question, Reb. The use of the word fittingly again and again here, because they refer back to, Reb Elazar, who used the word fittingly, and here again it's talking about fittingly. Is that trying to help us again see that we each have our own striving that's fittingly?
So that's an interesting point. That word is used again and again throughout the Zohar, and that's the two possibilities. One is what you just said. So say it again. Can you remember what you just said?
Fittingly meaning sort of your own, for you, personal. You have your own, custom-made striving to do.
Right. So that's right. So that's a very modern idea, right? That's a very individualistic take on things, and we're certainly saying that to a certain extent here. Everybody has a little bit of a different path. Everybody has a different challenge. Everybody has a different way that they have to get someplace. So there obviously is uniqueness to each and every one of us, and that means that it has to be a unique way to go to get to someplace. But then the question is the end so distinct for each and every one of us? Or are we all going to one final shared place and goal? Right? Do we share that? And I think today, and again in modern thinking, this is a big struggle, right? That to completely recognize each person in individuality, distinctiveness, a group distinctiveness, even cultural distinctiveness. And it's very hard. It's a struggle. Talk about striving. It's a struggle to keep that in mind with deep respect, and then think about what's our common basis, or where are we actually trying to get to? Yes, so we have a common humanity, right? We're all children of one God. We're all brothers and sisters. Where are we going? Are we all going? Are we all trying to get to the same place, just in different ways? Or are we trying to get to different places? In the real world that we know of today, we are not all trying to get to the same place. We definitely choose to go different ways, different places, and to achieve different kinds of things. One of the important okay, Sandra, good to have you back. One of the important thinkers in pluralistic thinking was Isaiah Berlin, and he was very insistent that to think pluralistically is to avoid thinking harmonistically. That pluralities of values and views mean actually, in the end, if you take them very seriously, that there's going to be disagreement, that there's actually not going to be a common consensus about what's the most important value, what's the most important path, what are our most important goals, what's the best way to be a human being. He kept on insisting that we have to understand that this is not a smooth, journey where we're eventually going to work out our differences and we're all going to agree with each other. That's actually it's just plain wrong. And it's not giving credit to the fact that there are many competing values in the world and they don't get along with each other. The Zohar doesn't believe that. Unfortunately, I find Berlin as a thinker pretty convincing. And that's why for the Zohar, I've mentioned it other times, that's what faith is about. Faith is about somehow seeing a unity to what seems absolutely completely irreducibly different. And that somehow the right and the left clasp each other together. And the distinctiveness of the right and the left is true and real up to some point or other, and then the parallel lines meet. In some infinite place, they will meet. And as a realist and as a mensch, Berlin dismissed that, and he was very afraid of that thinking. There's a very eloquent teacher against that idea because he saw it as authoritarian. He saw it as monistic thinking is a recipe for destroying anybody that gets in your way. And historically, he's right. So there's a struggle here because what I'm getting to, a long answer to your question, is that for the Zohar, the word fittingly actually means in the end the right way. Not just the way you want, but the right way, the fitting way. The way is appropriate, not the way some mistaken people might think. Not you can't just make this all up on your own. There's a fitting way, and then there's the straying and the heretical and the wrong and the mistaken and the foolish and the evil and all those other missing the mark. And then there's what's really actually fitting. So in a certain sense, it ends up being the opposite of what you were saying. But of course, both of them are right. for the Zohar, yes, the Zohar definitely agrees that there are separate lines that may be parallel, distinct. Your line is not my line, but in the end, we're going to have to get to some fitting place. And that claim, like I say, is not an easy claim to accept on rational grounds and on ethical grounds. You have to be very careful. Be very careful with that claim. All right. So good. Now we need somebody to read the next paragraph on page 282. Yes, Beryl. Thank you.
Start with now.
If not now, when?
Okay. Now the people of Israel hold fast to her with mysteries of commandments of Torah, as when every single day a person fortifies himself with tassels, which is a commandment, enveloping himself in them with tefillin, placing them on his head and arm, a fitting supernal mystery. For the Blessed Holy One appears in a person who crowns himself with tefillin and envelops himself in tassels, entirely a mystery of supernal faith. So one enveloped in this uncrowned,
Unenveloped.
So one unenveloped in this, uncrowned, unfortified with tefillin every day, feels abandoned by faith, divested of the awe of his Lord, his prayer improper.
Okay. So we've come from the Avot HaOlam, so to speak, the patriarchs of the world, the three progenitors that started this whole thing. And now we come into the present day for the Zohar. Right? Each and every one of us, as a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we need to follow in some kind of maybe even pale reflection of their way. We need to also embark on this same struggle. We need to fortify ourselves, right? They strive, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob strive to fortify themselves in perfect faith. What about us? This is the Zohar's implicit question. We're not Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's. So what's left for us? How do we do this? So one possible answer, if we wouldn't have paid more attention to what we saw right a minute ago, so this is a wrong answer. It's not fitting. But the wrong assumption might be, okay, so we're after Jacob inherited the results of the endeavoring and the striving and the digging of Abraham and Isaac. We are Bnei Yisrael. We're the children of Israel, the children of Jacob. So we don't have to do that either. We've got it. We inherited it. We inherit this wonderful tradition, and we inherit the wonderful holiness that spreads out of this tradition. But that's not quite true. There's an element of that, right? Because after all, we have a covenant which says that we are going to be the faithful children of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We say every morning in the prayers, in the traditional prayers, we say it's a little bit different than I've talked about this many times. We're going to come to Yom Kippur, right, soon. And at the end of Yom Kippur in the Elah, we say, Ma nachnu, ma chayenu, ma chazdenu, ma tzidkenu, ma yishenu, ma gvurasenu. Who the heck are we? Not who are we. What are we? We're nothing. Right? Like the famous joke. Our strength is nothing. Our wisdom is nothing. Our cunning is nothing. Our inventiveness is nothing. Right? And we say it's all trivial. It's all vanity. There is no difference. There's no added advantage or added value to a human being over an animal. It's all worthless. Kol hevel, just like in Ecclesiastes. It's all futility and vanity. So we come to this like very negative erasure of anything special about the human being. And then we turn around and we say, on the other hand, And on Yom Kippur, we say, Ata hivdalta, without skipping a beat. Now, obviously, it depends on the chazan. Depends on who's reciting the prayers. But that's the last words of the paragraph. Everything is nothingness, worthlessness, futility. Ata hivdalta enosh merosh. You distinguish the human being from the very beginning. And you recognized him, you endowed him with this ability to stand before you. So it completely then goes in the opposite direction and completely says, yes, on the one hand, we're nothing. And then on the other hand, look at how you raised us up to be the most unique creature in the world. To be able to be in dialogue before you, and not just in dialogue, not just to serve you, to stand before you. Right? And of course, in the Ilu, we stand the whole time. So there's this like shift, this like bipolar shifting. So that's what happens on Yom Kippur. But we have the same first paragraph every day in our davening. Every day at the very, very beginning of the morning davening, in the traditional davening, after we thank God for opening our eyes and letting us stand on firm ground and walking and going and getting dressed, all this, the basic stuff. And then we say the same thing, and we say a human being should be honest with themselves, whether in not just in public, but also in private. And you should admit that you're a nothing. And we say the identical words, ma anachnu, ma chayenu, we are nothing, all of our talents, all of our special accomplishments, it's all garbage, right? But then what do we say? So we don't do the existential, universal statement that we have on Yom Kippur. Instead, we say aval, but on the other hand, anachnu amcha, b'nei brisecha, b'nei Avraham avicha, right? But we are your people. We are the people of your covenant. We are the children of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. We mention each one of them. We're their children. And we are therefore bound to you in a covenant. So whatever we lack in a creaturely way, we have been, on the other hand, compensated by this amazing heritage, a very specific thank you for being a Jew. So that's the daily prayer. So yeah, so we have a heritage, we have an inheritance, we have something that we've taken as the children of these mind-boggling figures, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So what exactly have we inherited? So we have not inherited the automatic entry into God's presence and God's connection. We keep singing, we had this already so many times, this is the month of Elul. I wish that I could be in God's house and gaze upon God's beauty every day. I wish I could do that. That's what I keep hoping. And L'cha amar libi bakshu fanai, my heart, you keep telling me, just keep on searching for God's face. Keep going, right? Keep striving. So how do we do it? So many of us are not spiritual geniuses like Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We need props. We need tools. We need a system. We need a routine. We need something tangible. So here the Zohar says, the people of Israel hold fast to her through the mysteries of the commandments of the Torah. So, and then they give examples. So it's interesting, the phraseology here, right? The mysteries of the commandments of the Torah. As when every single day a person fortifies himself with the tzitzis and with the tefillin. Right, so this is talis and tefillin. Talis is the garment, the tzitzis is the fringes, the tassels. So every day, the Jew, for the Zohar, the Jew means the male Jew. For us, by rights, as I've said so many times, it means all of us. We enwrap ourselves with these commandments. And that's what fortifies us. Now, the truth of the matter is, of course, is that you can put all the on the talis and tefillin, and then it can be totally meaningless, and it can be totally boring, and it can be a pain. The Zohar is not interested in that possibility. The Zohar is interested in the mystery of it. The Zohar is interested in the person who engages in this practice, digging the well, right? Digging into the physicality of this practice and penetrating it into its spiritual meaning. When I do sharing Shabbat, every Shabbat morning, I try to, again, when we put on the talis, I read out the meditation that we have in the Siddur, that we imagine ourselves at that point the same way that God created the world, by wrapping God's self in a garment of light. We imagine that moment in micro, when we wrap ourselves in a garment. God's garment is the garment of light that creates all reality. Our garment is maybe some schmutzy, shmata that we actually we tied some strings on the corners. Not the most impressive piece of clothing that the world has ever seen. If you put a talis up in a museum and you put it next to some kimonos or next to some whatever, shawls and garments and things that from any other culture all over the world, you will not look twice at a talis. Talis has nothing special about it. I mean, many of us have gone to a certain effort to make a beautiful talis for ourselves, to make a talis that feels good, that looks beautiful, and that's right. That's the right thing to do. That's called hidur mitzvah. Take a mitzvah and make it as beautiful as you can. But that's not the essence of the mitzvah. The essence of the mitzvah is simplicity. The essence of the mitzvah is just take a rectangular piece of cloth and put some strings on it, and voila! All of a sudden, it's a garment of light, and it fortifies your faith. And the tefillin is the other thing, right? So the tefillin is on our head and on our arm. So why these two? Why is the Zohar bringing these up as the examples, right? The mysteries of the commandments of the Torah. And then it says, here it is. Here's the mysteries of the commandments of the Torah, talis and tefillin. What about tzedakah? What about whatever? Kashrut? What about returning a lost object? What about leaving the corners of your field to the poor? What giving first fruits? That's our first mitzvah in the Torah reading. We're coming up. How did the Zohar bring up these two mitzvot? So there's a note here that tries to historically contextualize this. And this is note 186. So we're going to skip the beginning part, some of which I already explained. And but you know what? We won't. We're going to skip the first paragraph. Beryl, can you see where it says on the right-hand side, by wearing tefillin, one imitates God?
By wearing tefillin, one imitates God, who himself wears tefillin, according to Rabbi Avram in
Brachot, Babylonian Talmud Brachot.
According to Rabbi Hiya, son of Avin, the verse inscribed in God's tefillin is 1 Chronicles 17.21.
Who is 21 is the verse. Chapter 17, verse 21.
Who is like your people Israel, a unique nation on earth? The commandment of tefillin was widely disregarded in France and Spain in the 12th and 13th centuries. The Zohar, seeking to reinforce the commitment to this mitzvah, emphasizes its mystical significance. The two tefillin on the head and the arm symbolize Tiferet and Shekhinah, and by wearing them faithfully, one unites the divine couple.
Right. Okay. Good. Shkoach. So we have a whole bunch of things here. The wearing of the tefillin is in the Talmud mentioned as something that God does. So of course we have a very nice kind of flipping back and forth. Obviously, the image of God wearing tefillin is taken from the reality of the fact that we wear tefillin. But once that image is created, then the tables are turned. We wear tefillin because God wears tefillin. Right? Everything that we do is an imitation of God. We should walk in God's ways. Mahu rachum, afatah rachum. If God is compassionate, you should be compassionate. If God buries the dead, you should bury the dead. If God visits the sick, you should bury the sick. So now we have another one. If God wears tefillin, you should wear tefillin. Take it for what it's worth. For those of us who want to imitate God, try to walk in God's paths. So it's a cute, flipping around of the relationship. And the Gemara says, well, look, in our tefillin, it says, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Listen, Israel, God is one. So what should be in God's tefillin? God should try to concentrate on the fact that God is one. I think God knows that. So what is the Zohar? What does the Talmud say? No, what God's tefillin says is, who is like your people Israel? One unique people. Right? So the uniqueness that God reminds God's self every day is that God is in love with the Jewish people. We're supposed to love God. God is supposed to love us. So that's the message, or the relationship that's established in that image. But then we have this very interesting historical note. I don't know if people know this before. But we have reports, and what it is basically rabbis of the time complaining about the neglect of these mitzvot. So tefillin is one, but actually it turns out that talis is also one. I mean, it's things that we consider, like the hallmarks of what a Jew looks like. Unfortunately, we have images from the Shoah of, this is how to torment a Jew. First, how do you know that he's a Jew? Make him wear talis and tefillin, then kill him. So, but the talis and tefillin becomes the brand, becomes the real identifier of the Jew. And yet, in the Middle Ages, we have rabbis saying, I went on a campaign, the Smag, the Sefer Mitzvos Gadol, the Moshe of Kutzi was a great scholar, and he writes that he went through all of Spain on a like an evangelical tour, like a revival tour, and he says, I went from place to place trying to get people to put on tefillin, and I succeeded in bringing back thousands of Jews to wearing tefillin. So it's quite extraordinary. We have this image about the faithful Jews throughout all the generations until we got to modern times. And that image is not totally wrong. What's part of the reason? Part of the reason that Jews weren't wearing talis and tefillin. So one reason we know, for instance, and we have descriptions in the literature of the German pietists. So now I'm back up in the German area as opposed to Spain, because people couldn't afford it. People couldn't afford it. And we have stories about somebody borrowing a talis from somebody else because they couldn't afford. The abject poverty of some communities was so awful that this ritual object was hard to come by, and people had talisim that were in terrible shape and weren't kosher anymore. So some of it was that. Some of it was just plain the struggles of Jewish life, but some of it was also the creation of a fear of the holy, right? That if you actually really believe that it's so holy, you run away from it, because who are you to be so pure and holy that you can wear tefillin? When I was young, once upon a time, so I got a little bit involved in trying to get people to wear tefillin, like the Chabad, programs that they have where they go out, they set themselves up on a truck or a table or something like that. So I remember once it was at an Israel Day parade, and this was after the parade. We went to Central Park. People were hanging out. There was going to be music before it became a right-wing, awful thing. Like I said, I was very young. So I decided, why should I just waste my time having fun? Let me see if I can get some people to put on tefillin. So I went over to people and I said, put on tefillin. And I remember one guy couldn't hear me so clearly. Plus, I was a little embarrassed anyway. I wasn't exactly fully into this. And he had a camera around his belly. And he says, "Of course I have film in it. Of course I have." He thought I was saying, "Do you have film? Do you have film in your camera?" So, but then, I finally explained. He goes, "No," he says, "I can't do that. I can't put on some, that holy stuff. You don't know who I am." And he gave me this whole thing about he's a sinner and he's not, and this and that and the other thing. And despite my best efforts, he didn't get persuaded. But I learned a little bit about human psychology. But the idea of tefillin is in the tradition. Tefillin is, after all, wrapping yourself not just with a symbol. You're literally wrapping yourself with God's name. You're wrapping yourself with pieces of Torah. So there was a certain fear. There was a certain fear and trembling about that. For instance, you're not allowed to wear tefillin if you can't control your bodily excretions. So if, God forbid, you're sick and you're incontinent, let's say, then you're not allowed to wear tefillin because you don't have a guf naki. You don't have a clean body in order for the tefillin to rest upon you. Just like you don't wear tefillin when you go into the bathroom. Right? You take your tallis and your tefillin, you put it off, you take it off, and if you have to go relieve yourself while you have them on, you take them off, and then you go into the bathroom. So people got so freaked out by this holiness of the tefillin that instead of striving to reach that holiness, they humbly said, "No, thank you." We were talking in Torah study before, about the Mount Sinai experience. God comes down on Mount Sinai to meet with all of the people of Israel, and they completely freak out, and they say, "No, thank you very much, Moses. You go take care of this, and we'll wait back here. It's too much for us." And that's that's how Moses got hired. That's how Moses got his 40 years of a job. So there's all kinds of stuff going on in many kind of contradictory ways. Of course, there's also the philosophical antagonism to gross materialistic symbolic rituals. In our own time, this became the starting position of the Reform movement. That rituals are stupid. They're puerile. They're only for people who don't understand that you can go into the rational and the spiritual without having to have toys and props. And in Spain, this was a powerful force among some people. Okay, so if the idea of the tefillin is that we should feel close to God, I don't have to put on tefillin. I'll just feel close to God without the tefillin. What do I need the obstacle, the clunky box. The clunky box is going to make me, close to God. I'll just feel close to God. I have to shake a lulav to celebrate God's majesty in the world. I'll just have my heart focus on God's majesty, and that's good enough. What do I need? A palm branch and a fruit? It's stupid. So there are these contending ways that we find for ourselves to dismiss these things. Either from very, very pious ideas or from very, very anti spiritual ideas or anti whatever. I said the examples. So if the choice here is because these mitzvot were notorious for being under attack and also being neglected, that's one idea. But actually, it sort of goes into it sort of begs the question: why these mitzvot as being the ones who are so neglected? And that's because in the end, these mitzvot really are the way you start your day as a Jew. Again, with the gender, discrimination that duly noted. But it's not like you're supposed to, somewhere during the day you should put on tefillin. I mean, that's true. If you haven't put on tefillin sometime during the day, so find the time to put it on. And that's the whole raison d'etre of people going around stopping you on your lunch hour. Did you put on tefillin yet? It's not too late. But in terms of the Jewish way of life, the Jewish routine is that's the first thing you do in the morning. You don't eat, right? You wake up, you thank God for giving you your soul back. You go to the bathroom, you wash your hands, you make blessings about being able to do that. You get dressed and you thank God for giving you clothing to wear and shoes to put on your feet. And then you go and you put on your tefillin. You put on your talis. Put on your talis first. So that's the way you start the day. In that kind of fundamental, essential routine, talis and tefillin are quintessential as identifiers of a Jew. Also, once you put them on, you don't have to take them off anytime during the day. There's no time limit until the sun goes down. You're obligated to wear a talis and tefillin. If you put it on for 2 minutes, you fulfill the mitzvah. If you put it on for 15 hours, so that's also fulfilling the mitzvah. And of course, some very pious people, that's what they do. And that's where you get the practice of having very, very tiny tefillin. If anybody ever saw really, really small tefillin, it was to be able to wear tefillin unobtrusively under your hat, and under your shawl if you were in the Mediterranean countries, without showing it off, but having it. So talis and tefillin are continuous mitzvot. They apply the whole day long as being part of who you are as a Jew. I want to bring out one more link, and that is that we have introduced, and in another page or two, we're going to get really into Jacob. There's a certain linking here between each and every one of us as a descendant of Jacob and Jacob with regard to talis and tefillin. That's a hint. What might be the connection between the story of Jacob and a Jew wearing talis and tefillin in the morning or any time during the day? Anybody see a link? Going once, twice? All right. How does Jacob get the blessing from Isaac? Unmute yourself, Craig.
Well, but by trickery, basically.
That's a conceptual idea. Tell me the story.
Well,
What's the trickery? What's the trickery consist of?
I'm sorry, say that again.
What does the trickery consist of?
He dresses
Thank
himself.
you. Aha. Yes. Okay. Say it nice and clear.
He dresses himself like Esau.
He dresses
He
himself
puts
up
on
in
Esau's garments.
right. He dresses himself up in a special garment. And how does his father persuade himself that he's not being tricked?
He touches him and he says, the voice
Where
is
does
the
he
voice
touch
of
him?
Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau.
Right. He touches him on his arms.
Yeah.
Right. So there is a certain connection here that we put on a garment, we cover ourselves up with a garment, and our arm is wrapped with tefillin, and that becomes our identifying costume. So that becomes us. Right? So is it a trick? Yes, it's a divine trick. Right? It's the way that we're going to get the blessing. It's the way that we're actually going to be accepted as the one worthy of the blessing. So keep that in mind for later. When we get to the discussion, we'll see whether this is too far-fetched or whether there's some truth to that. Let's get to the last part of this. Pharaoh, can you read for us one more time? Read from us, please, the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. For the Blessed Holy One appears.
The Blessed Holy One appears in a person who crowns himself with tefillin and envelops himself in tassels, entirely a mystery of supernal faith. So one...
Okay, wait. You know what? So let's stop just that and try to digest that. Right. So this is a pretty big statement. Right. It's not simply saying, and therefore God is very happy that you are being so faithful to God. Although that may be one way to read it. If you look at note 187.
Appears. Several MSS read.
Right, MSS means manuscripts.
No. Read or appear to read.
Ishtabach. The question is it ishtakach or is it ishtabach? Question is the letter a chaf or a bet? And as Danny Matt points out, we actually are not so sure when we look at the manuscript. It's hard to read clearly what exactly says there. If it says ishtakach, it means is found there. And that's where he translates as appears, right? He becomes apparent. He is found there. God is found right there. But a less shocking reading is ishtabach, that God is praises God's self. Oh, look at that, another one of my people. Who is like my people Israel? Look at how faithful they are. Look at how wonderful it is that they're wearing talis and tefillin. So that's the easier reading, right? That God takes pleasure and God is happy. But the first reading, what do we make of that? Let's do a little striving here. What do we make of that? That the Holy Blessed One appears in a person who crowns himself with tefillin and envelops himself in the talis. Anybody? So let's go back to that idea that we had from the Talmud. Right? What does the Talmud tell us? That God also wears tefillin. Right? We should understand. Let me see if I can find my piece of paper, because my whole thing is a complete wreck here. 1 second. we should understand that the Talmud also believes that God wears a talus. So we have the idea, of course, that the God wears a talus when God creates the world. And of course, God creates the world every day. But we have an image that's an amazing image, that when Moses prays to God to forgive the children of Israel after the golden calf disaster. So God is, softening up and acceding to Moses' demands. And finally, Moses says, show me who you are. Right? Let me, if you really loved me, then please show me your glory. And the famous answer, of course, is, what does God say?
No man can see my form and live.
Right, my face. Right? Nobody can see my face and live, but rather, what's going to happen?
Sticks them in a crevice and maneuvers a turn to leave with his arms stretched out so he can see only his back as he leaves.
Right. So this is this amazing story that God says, I'm going to let you see my back. I'm not going to let you see my face. You can't survive if you see my face. And then God passes over Moses, and God lets Moses experience some kind of backhand presence of God, and hears God call out the 13 attributes of God's mercy. Hashem, Hashem. God is merciful and so abundant in merciful and forgiveness. Right? The Talmud says when Moses saw God's back, what did he see? And the Talmud says he saw the back knot of God's tefillin. That Moses saw the knot that you put, that holds the tefillin on your head. And God passed by Moses and said, there's a covenant that I swear to uphold with you. And God appears, says the Talmud, like a shliach tzibur, like a messenger of the congregation. And God was wearing talus and tefillin, and says, if you will offer this verse, this prayer of my 13 attributes, I will always forgive you. Right? This is my covenant with you, to pray in this way. And that's the basis of slichot. That's the entire foundation of our penitential prayers. And that's how it's structured. It's structured as we have all kinds of, whatever it is, poems or paragraphs of prayer. And then we constantly go back to, and you showed Moses that we can say this. And therefore we say, Hashem, Hashem, Kel Rachum V'Chanan, and depending on what your machzor is, you say it 1 time, 5 times, 25 times. Every prayer tradition, has it, and then depending on how much they want to keep on, driving it home. But that's the slichot utterance is pictured by the Talmud as being tied up with an image of God in talus and tefillin. This is God's great revelation to us. So what that means is not only are we imitating God by doing this mitzvah, just like God puts on tefillin, we put on tefillin, but when we put on talus and tefillin, we look like God. We are the spitting image of God. God appears in a person wearing talus and tefillin. Right? The old man with the beard sitting on the chair. Yeah, with talis and tefillin. So that's, in the clunkiest way, one way to understand what the Zohar is saying. Right? On a spiritual level, you have to then, of course, go beyond that. It's not simply, appearances that we're after. The appearances are the mystery, right? The appearances are the beginning, the entryway for us to get into the mystery, right? To penetrate beneath the surface, to dig the well. But the appearance is you can't, it's indispensable. You can't dispense with the appearances. We live in a world of appearances. So we have to control what those appearances will be. So what the Zohar is selling here is this identity, this coming together of the image of God as an image of God before our eyes. How do we imagine God? Not the philosophical or the theological idea of it's our inner soul and it's our uniqueness and all of that beautiful and true stuff. But here the Zohar is being very superficial. Image of God means, what's your image of God? Make an image of God. Not an idol, but an image of God. Conjure up for yourself an image of God, and then be in that image. So here the Torah gives us, or the tradition gives us, a ready-made image on a silver platter. You want to be in the image of God? Put on talis and tefillin. You'll be in the image of God. God will appear in your wearing of talis and tefillin. Any comments? Anybody deciding to put on talis and tefillin now, from now on, for the first time? Just joking, just joking. Okay. Okay.
You already do it.
Like Tanto said, what do you mean we, white man? Okay, the last three lines, one more time. Beryl, it's your turn again.
Okay, the last three lines, which is
So one,
unenveloped in this, uncrowned, unfortified, with tefillin every day, feels abandoned by faith, divested of the awe of his Lord, his prayer improper.
Okay, so time for commentary. What is the Zohar claiming here? So the Zohar claims to know what's in the heart of the people, right, that are not engaging in this, and they say that they feel abandoned by God. It's a pretty heavy and presumptuous claim, but that's the statement that's being made. His prayer improper, right? Coming back a little bit to that fittingly question, right? Let's note that this person is actually praying, or not. How do we read that? His prayer improper. There's two ways to read it, right? I just sort of indicated. One way to read it is, nevertheless, the person is praying, but they feel bad about their prayer. They feel that their prayer is not acceptable. They feel that their prayer doesn't count, that it's second class, that it's not appropriate. And that would be one way to read it. Yeah, I'm praying, but it's not completely the right way. The other way to read it is, since prayer in this way would be inappropriate, I'm not going to pray. So there is no prayer, because I don't want to engage in an improper prayer. Right? I think both of those are possible, ways that people sometimes feel. Although the truth is, that the Zohar is a little extreme in thinking that this feeling doesn't exist if you're putting on talis and tefillin. You can put talis and tefillin on and also feel that your prayer is not so great. But we have here two ways that people struggle with connection to the tradition, with connection to something spiritual, with connection to some sense of God. And back to Seth's point, is there really a right way? Is there really a right way? What if there isn't a right way? I mean, wouldn't that be liberating? And wouldn't that open the door? And the truth of the matter is that in our world, it has that sense that if there's no one right way, has opened the door for tremendous spiritual flourishing and vitality. Right? And yet the Zohar says, certainly, at least for the Jew, here's the right way. And if you don't do this right way, it's not right. What do we do with this? I'm not here to give you an answer to this. I want to, if you feel like you can talk about it, I'm trying to open the door here.
I just it's interesting how they say if you don't do this, you're then it says, here's how you're gonna feel. It doesn't tell you like here's what's the consequences of being It says here's how you're gonna feel. So that's kind of interesting. It's about, are you a part of this or not? Are you feeling belonging or not? And this is about belonging. That's how I take it.
So does it sound a little patronizing? Does it sound a little bossy to tell people that this is how they're going to feel, or this is how they feel, and for your own good, do this?
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Well, it's sort of ironic. It's sort of ironic for us to be talking about that with this week's Parsha. Because in this week's Parsha, if you don't follow the commandments, there's a lot of things worse than the fact that you're going to feel alienated. So I really wonder about the dichotomy between the Torah and the Zohar.
The Zohar is a kind of the New Testament. That was a joke. But yeah, I mean, it's a dichotomy, and yet it's continuous. Correct. I think, though, I probably won't be shocking to you if I say the multiplicity of approaches is not new with the Zohar, and the Zohar's addition of an emphasis here or a focus there or a different kind of language is not, it doesn't spring out of nowhere. There's a continuous tradition of dichotomous, conversation in talking Torah, and it applies to the Torah itself. It starts with the Torah. The Torah, what is it? Do I contradict myself? Yes, I contradict myself. The Torah contradicts itself, and the prophets contradict the Torah, and the sages contradict everybody else, and the sages contradict each other. And we have what the Zohar delightedly calls, we have new old words of Torah. We have words that have never been ever thought of before, perspectives that have never ever been entertained, and they're all actually rooted in the old way. And this is story number 44, right? That so well, the classic story, when Moses says to God, what's going on here? I need to take the Torah down, and God says, hold on, I'm not finished yet. I got to put on the crowns. And Moses says, so what's the big deal with the crowns? Oh, because Rabbi Akiva, there's going to be a guy 1,000 years from now, more than 1,000 years from now, who's going to find meaning in the crowns. So if I don't put the crowns in, he won't find the meaning that he's going to have to discover. The well that he's going to have to dig is not going to be able to exist. So Moses says, whoa, right? You heard the story, but it's a story. We should say the story again and again and again. So Moses says, let me see who this guy Rabbi Akiva is. So God twirls him around in the time machine, and he goes and he sits in the back, so he shouldn't be too obtrusive in the school, in the classroom. And there's Rabbi Akiva teaching Torah, and Moses cannot understand a word. He can't understand anything. And he's going, this is the Torah? I thought what I gave is the Torah. And finally, a student raises his hand and says, excuse me, Rabbi Akiva, how do you know that what you just said? And Rabbi Akiva says, what do you mean? It comes straight from Moses. It comes straight from Moshe. And at that point, Moshe finally gets it. Okay? So that's my only answer to this dichotomous question. It's a tradition of dichotomies. It's a tradition of elu ve'elu. It's a tradition of on the one hand and on the other hand. In Torah study today, I pointed out one verse that's such a strange, and either it's ridiculous or it's deeply profound. And it says, you know why you're getting hit over the head? Forget about, like you say, forget about feeling spiritually alienated or empty or whatever. You know why you're getting hit over the head by the most horrific suffering that can be described? You're eating your children, right? And not only are you eating your children, but you refuse to share with anybody else because you're so hungry and you're so desperate and you're so reduced to that kind of, I don't have the words for it, that you will eat your child's flesh on the sly so that nobody else will take a bite, God forbid it, and reduce your meal. That's how horrible it says you're going to be. And then the Torah says, you know why? Tachat asher lo avadat Hashem Elokecha b'simcha uvetuv levav meirov kol. Because you didn't serve God with joy and with good-heartedness from all the good that you had. And all the commentators said, you served God. But you didn't serve God b'simcha uvetuv levav, with joy and with goodness of heart. And that's why you're getting this horrific stuff. So what do you do with that? I mean, it ends up coming right back to this. It comes back to where's the heart in all of this? And how do you bring your heart? Love the Lord your God with all your heart. This is in the Torah, it's not in the Zohar. So that kind of dichotomy is with us all the time. All the time. All right, we're going to stop here, and thank you to everybody. And
Thank you.
Yosh koach.
hopefully resume next week.
Okie doke.